Okay, good evening. Hi. Casey Mills is here with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And sorry about that.
That's okay.
We are here to discuss your latest release, Implied Consent. And I want to get you warmed up with
Okay.
a quick fire round. So
Oh
these
Lord.
questions I don't want you to think about. I want you to tell me the first thing, your first answer. So don't think, just tell
Oh
me, okay?
Lord. Okay.
It's just five questions. I promise it's gonna go by so fast and they're not hard questions.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Water, wine, coffee, or tea?
Wine.
My girl. Morning or night?
Night. Not a morning
Me
person.
me either. Digital or print?
Depends. If it's a book, I like the feel of the pages and all of that. So if it's a book, I want print.
Okay. And standalone or series?
Depends on the author, but I'm gonna say standalone.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm impatient. Like I have the patience of a mustard seed. So
Now, this is an author here telling us that she's impatient. So to
well,
all my
however,
reader babes,
I'm polite impatient though. I'm on the other side too, so I'm polite impatient. So
well, I'm always, yeah, I believe in being polite and patient, but
yeah.
I want people to know that authors want the books too. They want the
Heck
next book
yeah, we
too.
do. Yes, we
Okay.
do.
Okay. Last one. Music or quiet?
Quiet. It
Okay.
depends though.
Okay. Okay.
It depends on the mood though. If it's writing, quiet. If I'm
Okay.
zoning, like trying to get there to write, then music. So it depends.
Okay. See, that wasn't too bad, right?
Nah, it was easy.
Oh, we have somebody who joined us. DMs, hi. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. And you guys can leave comments as you watch, and we'll go through and try to get everybody's comment or answer questions as we go through the questions that we've prepared for KC. So now we're going to get into the real nitty gritty.
All
You ready?
right, I'm ready.
Okay. If you weren't an author, what would your profession be?
Oh God, that's such a hard question because now that I am an author, I can't envision myself doing anything else. But I will say that prior to being an author, I worked in corporate America in logistics. So I was a number cruncher. Um, Probably that. I don't know, but
Okay.
at this stage, I'd say I'd probably be a librarian because I love books so much now.
Oh, that is the first that I got that answer. So that's a good one. How do you when you have a chance to read, as you just said you love to read, what's your preferred genre to read?
I don't really have one. And again, it's going to depend on mood because I read everything. Um, but more than anything, probably urban and romance is my go-to, but I don't really have a preferred genre.
Okay. So since you don't have a preferred genre, this I'm really excited for the answer to this next question. Can you give us at Sister Girls Book Club three must read books from Casey Mills?
Oh Jesus. Okay, so I'm gonna have to. I don't get to read as much as I used to, so I'm gonna have to go
Okay.
with what I just recently read, and
Okay.
so some of it's old because I don't have a lot of time to read. I have to go with what I know will work for me. So, Millie, When Souls Collide. I just
Okay.
recently reread that.
Hey Millie, we had Millie on not too long ago.
Yeah, I love her work. Um, and I just recently read by Dominique Thomas. I Hate It Here. I've read all of her catalog, but she's one of my go-to authors.
Mine too. That's my girl.
Yeah, and let me see. Oh, of course, From the Hood with Love. And I'm inching towards the third book. I'm not exactly
Okay.
there yet.
I heard that book was amazing. That's still in my TBR pile. No,
Oh,
like
you have to read it.
because it's still in my TBR pile because I was waiting for the series to be complete. Because I'm like you, I need the complete series because I will drive myself crazy trying to figure out what happened. So
Well,
I was waiting for that series to be completed before I started.
the problem with me is Brienne likes to play. So I had to wait for all of it to come out because she'll do you dirty. She'll have you sitting there like, what the
Oh,
hell just happened? So I'm inching towards
okay.
book 3. I just hadn't had time to get around with. So those are my um, series standalones that I say are must reads.
Okay. And now let's talk about chore books. How
Hi.
many books have you published? A lot.
Oh God, I'm gonna say I stopped counting just because my memory is shit. I'm sorry, I mean curse, but
Oh, no, no, no. You can curse here. We
okay.
adults. You can curse, you can drink your wine, you can eat your snacks. This is
Okay,
this
good
is
deal, good deal.
very this is very much as comfortable as you make it. We
All
do not
right.
do that.
Okay, I'm with that. I'm with that. I'm gonna say somewhere between 120, 130, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I've
That's
been
great.
writing for 6 years, and probably for the first 2 years that I was writing, I was putting out like a book every 2 weeks to 3 weeks because the stories were there and I had to get them out.
Well, so it wasn't back cataloged books. It was just books that you were freshly writing.
Freshly writing, just writing them
Wow.
back to back to
You
back.
must have been speed typing, like just
I promise it was like it was one of those things where that's how I know what I do is ordained because it was the flow was there. I Lord forbid, but I've never had writer's block. I get to the
wow.
point where maybe a story's not flowing, but I juggle multiple stories. So when one's not flowing, I jump to the other.
Really?
Yeah, so that works for me. So something's always flowing. Yeah, so it was like typing 24/7 to the point where I had to shut myself down because it was like, okay, go rest, that kind of thing.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's a
Thank
big feat.
you. Thank you.
And with that said, in your own words, how with 120 plus books written, how would you describe your writing style? Like if somebody, if you met somebody and they had never read a book by author Casey Mills and they said, well, describe to me, what do you write about? What words would you use to describe your writing style?
Romance with an edge. That's it. It's just kind of you get those alpha males who aren't afraid to show their feelings. You get the urban side of us that it may not always be pretty, but it ends up being lessons and reflected in a good light. And you're going to have the relationships, whether they be family, whether they be husband and wife, girlfriends and boyfriends, brothers and sisters, whatever the case may be. There's so many layers when it comes to emotions. So my books are basically romance with an edge.
Okay, I can respect that because that really segues us into my next question, which is, um, do you believe genre limits authors? Like, if you say I'm a urban author, I'm a romance author, I'm a fantasy author, I'm a historical author, do you feel like that limits an author's creativity in some ways?
Yes and no. So here's how I feel about that. With me, I've gotten to the point where I write the books and they fall where they may. But what genres do is help you do the research so that you know who you're marketing to, who you're writing, and trying to reach. So that's what genres do for you because you can't put a Christian book in a rap category and expect it to do well.
Right,
So
right.
genres help you define the product that you put out. But so in a sense, no, it doesn't. But then yes, it does because some people get boxed in by readers, by themselves, by thinking I can only write this or they can only write this. And it kind of limits you in a sense. But there again, some people only want to write specific things. But
True.
with me, I've gotten to the point, like I said, I write the story and it falls where it may. And some days I feel like getting gritty and urban, and some days I feel like, oh, I'm in love. I just really want to write about love, like that kind of thing. So it just depends, who knows? Maybe one day I'm gonna write a book about fairies. I don't know. I just
I
when the
love
stories
fairies.
speak to me, I just write it.
And with that said, how do you feel about the negative connotations that surround urban fiction and urban romance? Because you have written a good amount of urban based books.
For me, it's frustrating because everybody has their thing that is, it's typecast, I guess. So with urban, it's like it's only this and it can only be this, and all of those things are negative connotations. But with every genre, I read white genres too, and over there they have their thing with their blonde hair, blue eyes, tattooed guys, you know, they like the virgin thing. So everybody has their thing that kind of dictates what they are. But when they look at our thing, which is, you know, the street aspect of it, the urban aspect of it, you know, the hustle that comes with urban things of that nature, they look down on it. And there's so much
Right.
good in us, and it can
Hmm.
be, but you have to have the good with the bad. So you have to
Yep.
have those stories of people that are in the struggle in order to know they made it. So it frustrates me to a degree that with urban, they look at it and they look down on it, but everybody has their thing and everybody has their struggles, and that, you know, it's just for us, it's looked at like, that's not good. Y'all need to figure something else out. This is us. This is who we are. This is what we do, and this is how we've learned from our past and grown and reached, you know, different heights and stuff like that. So it's a good thing. It's just something about the hood that you can go there, you can feel good, you can feel bad, you can feel loved, you can feel hated. Everything's there, and
Right.
it's a good place to be. So I feel like we just need to be authors, and then we write what we write, and then people need to learn how to respect that, because as an urban author, we're still an author, we're still telling stories, we're telling amazing stories, but stop, you
Right.
know, looking at it in a negative light.
And see, and to piggyback off of what you just said, I mean, urban has always been my first genre of choice.
Hmm.
And to me, it has been because it's the rawest form of expression from people actually living it. So I
Yes.
feel like urban is still so untainted. Like it's
Yeah.
not being whitewashed, it's not being pretty like beautified. It's us telling these stories. And these are people, when urban first started, it was the people who had lived these stories telling these stories,
Right.
right? Before
Right.
before it became this big fictional boom. It was like,
Commercialized. Yep.
oh, right. It was the people who
Yeah.
actually lived these lives telling these stories. And I think that was always my draw to urban, because it was they were fantasy for us reading them, because
Right.
we would
Right.
never live these lives. So to me, people like, you know, to me, urban is fantasy, especially urban romance. It is
Right.
fantasy because we don't get to see these love stories play out in a way in our own lives all the time that
Right.
is ending with a happily ever after, so to speak. You
Agreed.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we get to
Hmm.
read these books with people that we can identify, that look like our brothers, our cousins, our uncles, our fathers, who have these same issues and struggles, and they get there happily ever after. That's
Right.
always my take on urban. Why
Yeah.
I will always go hard for urban. I'm a die-hard urban fan. Everybody in the book club knows that. Anytime we have the urban discussion, because we don't argue, we're a bunch of lovely people who know how to express themselves without being
Right.
rude. But that's always why I will go so hard for urban. Like we get to tell our own stories our way, and I think that is the most beautiful part about it to me.
Oh, absolutely. I
Um,
agree.
but moving on, because I could talk about that all day. So I want to just push us right along, and I'm going to get to the question in the chat room at the end of the my questions. But I do see that question there.
Okay.
Um, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice before publishing your first book, what would it be?
Don't sign with a publisher.
Woo, child.
Okay, now back on track. I would probably say stay true to your writing,
Okay.
because we had this discussion, I think, on another group that I was talking with. And my very first book, that's my baby, because it was written with no outside voices. And once you get those outside voices, it makes it a lot harder to stay true to your writing, because you hear this person saying, oh, well, maybe you should, or you should have done this, or maybe you shouldn't have done that. And regardless of how much you believe in what you do, you can't always quiet those voices. So I would my advice would be stay true to your writing and what you think, what you feel, and what you believe. And once you put it out there, it's out there. And then the readers who it's for will come to the book. And that's
Okay.
just, you can't write the book for the readers. You have to write the story, and the right readers will come to it.
So wow, That's good. So with that being said, do you read reviews? I know a lot of authors who don't. So do
Oh
you
my
read
God, I
reviews?
do.
You do?
I do, and it's almost obsessive in a way. And the thing of it is the main reason I read them now is because I'm a student of life and
Okay.
I'm still learning and growing, and I have barely scratched the surface of what I'm capable of. But sometimes we get so caught up in, or rather focused on what we're doing, that we're not taking time to really grow. And so a lot of the reviews really give you good advice as to if you're picking up patterns that you're doing in books over and over again, because you have to switch things up sometimes. So there are readers that, really give you good advice because they see things that you don't necessarily see, or maybe you tune out because they're, again, this is my baby, I put it out, it's great, y'all just need to love it. So that's how we go into it sometimes. But then there
Mhm.
are those readers that's like, oh, your main character wore red, 1 star, I hate it. So you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt, and you have to be mature enough to know that. And I say this all the time for any new author, any established authors, our success is solely based on someone else's opinion. So I can't expose myself to the world and then, not be willing to hear what the world has to say about it. But then
Mhm.
there are days I read, reviews, and I'm sitting there like, okay, you in Washington, I'm about to pull up, because we all have those moments. But then I cuss around the house, and my husband sits there and listens, and then he's like, okay, you good now? I'm like, okay, I'm good, I can go back, so that kind of thing. But yeah, I obsessively read reviews, and not just mine. I read everybody's reviews because it I could learn something from another author for something that they're doing great, or something maybe that's a weakness for them. And I'm constantly learning. I want to grow, and I want to be the best author that I can be. So yeah, I read them.
I just want to say that was so beautiful. I don't think any author has ever
Listen,
given me so much about that question, given me such a thorough answer about that question. Usually it's like either just a no or yes, and they hurt my feelings. So that was really,
well,
but I really hope that some authors can watch this and get and understand and actually gather that from, because I don't, this is going to be so bad. I'm horrible at leaving reviews. I tell
no,
all of my, all, like I, please don't ask me to review your book. I will sit and discuss it with you. I will go into great detail with you. I don't know how to write a good book review. My book bestie, Lex, that's my dog. She review books
yeah,
for us. She'd
okay,
be like, because she and I are usually on the same page and the same accord. Lisa don't do book reviews because I'm gonna mess it up. I'm finna psychoanalyze character. I'm gonna give you this whole analysis of like this, like this trauma. This is a trauma child. This, like, I'm gonna give you so much more than a book review. It will be like an actual book report from school, and you're gonna be like, you know what?
But
You know what?
the funny thing is, as authors, and I know I can speak for a lot of us, we want that, but we want you to send us that email or send it in a message,
So
because we don't want you to put it out there for the world.
that is the reader that I am. I am the reader in your inbox, in your texting you. I mean, not texting you, DMing you, emailing you, like, hey, just read this and it spoke to me in this way, and that's the reader I am. I cannot do
No,
those
that's good
quick
though.
Amazon reviews. I suck at like those Amazon reviews, like where it's like the book
Yeah,
was great, 5 stars, because I'm gonna mess it up. I'm just being honest here. And I know it's like it's so hard because I read a lot. Clearly I read a lot because I have to.
right.
But I don't. I usually just want to like leave. I like leave my stars and say great book or something. And I know like the authors who I actually are like have relationships with probably be looking at me
Right.
like, really?
But you know what? I can respect the not leave a review more than somebody who doesn't know how to leave a review, because here's the thing. I have a big enough following that reviews hurt sometimes, but they don't really hurt me, because I
Okay.
have enough people that just trust me as an author, that they're like,
Mhm.
you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. But there are some authors that are brand spanking new, and they're trying their best to make their way, and they get
Yep.
that one review that's like, oh, this was trash because it was this or that or whatever, and we're already hesitant to try those new authors. So when you see those
Yes.
negative reviews, it's like, oh wow. Now if you're giving real critique about a book, giving them something that can help them grow, I'm okay
Mhm.
with that too. But a lot of times that I feel like needs to be done personally, especially if they're new, because
Yeah.
they're wavering. They're like, I'm trying to figure it out. So I respect the people who don't leave reviews. If you know that you are not a good reviewer, that you just don't know how, or you don't know what to say, because it really, really hurts sometimes. Now, where I said I can kind of read my reviews, get over it, and move on. I know
A lot of
authors
people
that
can't.
sit, yeah, they'll sit for months and not write anything because of a review. And it's really, really hard. And so I can respect the not review thing too.
See, and most authors are like, just review the book. And I'm like, I don't want to mess this up because I know how
Yeah.
important, I know this is important. And secondly, because my name is associated with such
Right.
a big book club, I don't want to have that kind of influence.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I do try to do is I try to, by the way of doing these monthly chats, my goal is to always introduce them to somebody I haven't spoken to before, or really a new author. I love new authors. New authors are
Yeah.
my favorite. I feel like I love new authors because that first book is usually audacious. And I love a book with some audacity, baby. Let me tell you.
Yep.
Don't play with me. If you said he was on the moon doing it, he was on the moon, baby. That's what he was doing. I don't care how he got there, sis.
I love it.
If you said this hood man somehow found his way to NASA and he's now baby, he's an astronaut. That's why I love new authors,
I love it. I
because
love it.
they are audacious. And I am a reader who likes some audacity in my books. I like
Right.
somebody, see, and I like a character who be like, I did that, now what? Baby, you
Right.
did. Baby, you did that. I ain't gonna argue with
And
you.
then
You
what you
did
gonna
it.
say? You be like, you right, you did it.
Right. So that's why I personally lean towards newer authors, especially when I
Yeah.
want some excitement in my reading. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely have my list of what I call one click wonders, where I know that no matter no matter what they wrote, I'm going one click it. I'm not even gonna go to Kindle Unlimited. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy the
And
book
buy it,
because
right.
so, I do have my trusted list of authors that I just know that they're going to deliver something good. But
Right.
when I tell you I scour Amazon, like I am that person with 15 tabs open. I'm the person who goes to my last book and I look at recommended books from that last book that I absolutely love. And
Okay.
I got 15 books open. And I'm the person that people are texting, like, so what did you read? Because I'm like, so listen. Let me tell you about the audacity of this last person, okay? Let me tell you. And like my family has a running joke about me not being married because I expect like some book worthy type of
Right.
relationship goals. They like, you've been reading books for the last 16 years about, listen, I'm in Philly, okay? I read True to the Game at 14. Baby, I'm waiting for
You
somebody to
were damaged
away.
early.
I'm waiting for somebody to whisk me away to Jamaica for my first date. Please
Oh
stop.
my God. That's hilarious. That's
I
so funny.
like I said, I like audacity, baby. At 14, I was reading True to the Game,
I'm
Coldest
a
Winter Ever. So I'm in Philly, and then I'm in Philly. So
right.
you're not gonna play. Listen, show up, show out, do what you got
Oh
to do.
Lord. I hear
And
you.
so my family is like, yeah, that's not how relationships work. Says who?
You're like, yes, it is. I've been doing this for 16 years now. He's out
I've,
there.
I've been in a relationship for 16 years with all of these gentlemen callers. Please
Right.
don't tell me how this works. So yeah, so I am a lover of the new authors. I think but that makes me want to ask you another question.
Okay.
How do you feel when you hear that the industry is saturated, that it's oversaturated? It's just, too many authors and not enough new actual talent. What as you as a seasoned author, what would you say to that?
Um, okay, so the industry is oversaturated, but that's a good thing because there's
Okay.
something for everyone. As far as talent, what I think, so I believe if you can complete a book and go through, you have to excuse my herd here if you hear them. So if you can complete a book and go through the process of building characters, connecting stories, and all of that stuff, it might not be the best book in the world, but there's something there.
Okay.
So the breakdown is there aren't enough people who are willing to work with these authors versus just throwing them
Mm.
out there without the training
Mm.
behind it. So they're so oversaturated is not really a problem for me because there's
Okay.
something for everybody. And I say this all the time. I am very long-winded. I build my characters. I have slow burn, slow build. You're going to know every detail of their life because when you're reading that story, I want you to be like, I know him. I know her, and
Right.
that's just how I write my books. So then there are other people who will write a book and they whiz through that story. It might be a extremely fast-paced read, but you don't walk away feeling like I'm missing anything. So there's something for everybody. So
Okay.
as far as the talent part, there are some people that probably don't need to write. I don't read enough to know those people, but I hear the stories. But what I will say is that there aren't enough people who are willing to mold and train and give what they know to help these authors do character development, story development, where figure out continuity because you got a 5-year old in one chapter and then later on it's an 8-year old. So things like that, it's not necessarily that they're bad, they're just not trained and they
Okay.
don't have anybody that's working with them. So that's my thoughts. I feel like you said, these 15 tabs, there's 1,000 other people like you who are gonna search for those books and read them. So yeah, we need a shitload of books because everybody likes something different. And I get in
Yes.
my mood where I want to, be in the hood, and sometimes I want to be in a mansion. It just depends. So I
Sometimes
like
I like
that.
hood people in the mansion.
Right. So I
Come
like
on,
that.
back.
I like right. I like that, because also here's the thing. You have these people out here in the world that are building generational wealth by writing books. It is
Speak on it, because
beautiful.
that's something a lot of authors shy away from talking about is
It's
the money
beautiful.
the financial aspect of writing books, because
That's it.
it's not talked about. But
It's
I mean, I
not.
think
And
that's I think it's a general, especially in Black culture, to not talk about finances.
right. And
So
I agree to a certain point because you don't want somebody out there, girl, I cleared $10,000 or this or that, because it doesn't need to be that specific. But the conversations need to be had. When I turned in my first book, had never been published before. I was talented. I had something I wanted to say. Didn't know shit about the writing industry. I read books. I had been reading all my life, but I didn't know the publishing industry. But I turned in my first book and quit my job because I believed in me. And
what?
here I am, six now. I almost got divorced because my husband looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, "You what? You can write books?"
I feel like this
Because
is a testimony. This is a
it
testimony for
it
this is a
is. It really is.
testimony.
And I tell the story all the time. And I know a lot of people who already know me are tired of hearing it. But seriously, I turned in my first book and I quit my job. And, we, as an author, I did extremely well. Eventually we started a publishing company. My husband quit his job. So we all ran a publishing company together and we lived nice. I'm not hurting for anything. When the books came down and we went through that whole fiasco, then it was like, okay, we got to hustle and figure this out again. We're still living good. So you can make money doing this. So with circling back to being oversaturated, somebody might be paying their rent, somebody else might be paying their light bill. Everybody's goals are different as an author. Somebody might just be trying to say, hey, I need to be able to pay for daycare so that I can go to work. There's money in it. And so I'm not knocking anybody's hustle. If you can write a book and it can sell, go for it. I'm going to support you. I'm proud of you. Do what you do. So that's my thing. But the only thing I will say, once they get out there, once they start to drop these books, and once they build their following, there need to be people who are willing to mold them and help them grow. Because if you don't grow from your first book to your fifth, or even your first from your second, really, then something needs to change, because
So
eventually readers will be like, okay, this is the same old thing. I'm tired of it. There's no growth. So, but that's my thing. I think that there needs to be more people who are willing to educate in the industry.
So basically, it sounds just like, for me, corporate America. That some of these, so like, we talk about Black women in corporate America. I work in corporate America still, trying to get out, trying to get out. And we talk about, mentorship and sponsorship, and somebody coming behind you and being able to say, hey, I see potential in you. Let
Right.
me show you. I learned the hard way. But I feel like, again, that's a cultural thing. Everybody in our culture has to learn the hard way. I
Right.
don't, instead of saying, I see you, I see potential in you, and I see the potential of you making some of the mistakes I did when I started this thing. Let
Right.
me pull you to the side. But I think a lot of people don't feel like they are humble enough to do that, to put, because a lot of people look at other people and that's my competition.
Right. That's a lot of our issue,
They're
But
not humble enough to take on and say, hey, I see what this person is doing. I like what this person is doing. I know what I went through when I first started doing this. Maybe even if it's not a full-on adoption of a
right.
mentorship relationship, but just a little word of advice. Hey, don't take this the wrong way, but I noticed this. Or if you're already in a relationship with that person, saying, hey, if you ever need something, you could come speak to me about that, because I do have this wealth of knowledge and I'm willing to give that to you.
And then on the flip side, though, we have to consider that you have those that if you say, "Hey, I just noticed this, or I read this, or I'd like to have a conversation with you about that," then how it's going to be received. And then you
Mhm.
also have, and the urban industry. That's another issue I hate. It's very competitive, but it has to be in order for you to grow as an author. You have to keep moving through levels. And the only way you're going to continue to move through levels is if someone challenges your ability to grow. It doesn't mean I have to, because I like this, I have to hate that. And that's kind of where we are, with the industry. But you can look at that and be like, you know what? I respect what you're doing. You're growing based on your goals and your expectations, but that's motivating me to grow with my goals and my expectations. So in order for us to have those conversations and those mentorships, they have to be willing to receive it without that side eye or you how you gonna tell me something. So it's a huge circle that we're in, and it will get better, but it won't until just that one person reaches out and then that next person reaches out, and it's but I have hope. I believe it can work.
I definitely think, you have to make it feel safe.
Hmm.
And like, that's one thing I do like about our book club, is that we try to make it feel inclusive and safe.
Yeah.
Even if you disagree, even if you don't like it, you're allowed to say, I didn't like that. I didn't care for that recommendation. You're allowed to say that, because like we
Right.
discussed, everything's not for everybody. I make a book recommendation once a month, and I do not let any authors influence me. You can send it to me as a suggestion, but at the end of the day, I get to
Your
pick which
decision.
author I want to speak with, because I like the book or I like the author. I get, that's my decision. I get
Right.
total autonomy about who we get. And if you choose to opt out of reading the book that month, guess what? We are still
That's
friends.
cool. Yep.
We could still kick it and kiki and comment on each other's posts. You don't have to like every book, because like I told you, I'm a big urban person.
Right.
I'm a big now, and I mix it up for the book chats, and I mix it up for the sake of the book club, because I do like other stuff as well. But
Right.
I read predominantly urban and urban romance. Those are my predominant genres, and it's just a preference.
Right.
But if it's a good book, it's a good book. Like,
That's it.
if it's a good book, it's a good book. Especially if it's written well. Like, I am a sucker, and I'm also a sucker for lengthy novels.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to read a novel. I look at the page count, and if it's already under 200 pages, I'm usually like, um, you're gonna have to convince me that this is something, because like I said, I've been in a relationship with books for 16 years.
Right.
I need a lot. I need a lot.
And see, with you being in a relationship with books for 16 years, you also have to consider this. A lot of these newer generations, they don't understand that there were metrics to how you published a book. You couldn't publish anything under
Whew.
50,000 words, but their
So
goal was 80,000 for a novel.
so I talk about this all the time. I well, I talk about this all the time within my group of book friends. I actually would like book publishing to go back a little bit. I feel like it moved way too fast. And this is from somebody who actually eventually wants to get into the publishing industry. I kind of miss the it's nostalgic almost, because like I said, I've been doing this for six little over 16 years now. And it's a lot of us who are like that, who this has been our thing. This was our hobby. This was our passion for a long time. And going to the bookstore, reading the back covers and the synopsises, not being able to have read a review on Amazon, but calling your friends in this particular group of friends and saying, hey, did you know so-and-so put out a new book? I'm at the bookstore and I'm reading the back and it sounds amazing. I feel like it took the relationship, that intimacy of it out of it. But in the same way, it kind of, just like social media, it broadened up opportunities, and it also broadened the opportunities for you to connect, because I never thought that I would be talking to, even though like it's not that many, like I'm not always talking, but being connected through a book club with 2,000 people. Like I would never personally talk to 2,000 people. Believe it or not, I am an introvert. I talk to the same 3 people every day. And people never believe me. And I'm like, I am an introvert. I do not talk to people. I am a social person in social places. But once I go home and lock my door, you're going to have to call me 3 times before you get me on the line.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's such a weird place to be in, because it's like, I miss actually going, like here in Philly, I talk about this on every book chat. We had the gallery. We had 3 bookstores downtown, 2 bookstores downtown, and we still had Black and Noble at Broad and Erie. But to go into these stores, and we actually had these urban authors coming into these stores and doing book signings, you had to anticipate it. Like you couldn't hop on Facebook, or you couldn't hop on Instagram.
You didn't have the access.
Sliding your favorite author's DM, like, sis, hello, excuse me, sir.
And
you're writing a book.
I say that all the time too, and because I can see it on both sides, because I'm a reader and I'm an author. So I'm friends with Terry Wood. So we were having this discussion one day, and I was like, I said, I remember reading True to the Game and thinking, God, I really want to talk to her. I need to ask some questions. And so we're sitting one day, we're talking, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to ask these questions now. It might be, 20 years later, but I talk about it, sis.
QTNA, questions that need answers, because hello.
And then, so I appreciate it on both sides, because I was in that era where you didn't have access to authors. And now I'm an author who readers have access to me, and I have some beautiful relationships with people I have never been in the room with ever. And but then it's frustrating also, because like you said, it's a microwave industry. Everything is fast. It's quick. And readers start to feel entitled in a sense. And it's not necessarily their fault, but that's the way the industry is. These books are dropping fast. They can, DM you. They can be in your group. I got a Facebook group with 8,000 people. I hear from them all the time, and so it's a lot. And I'm also an introvert. I probably got 400 unread texts on my phone right now, because I'm horrible at communicating. I get in my little space, and when COVID hit, I was like, oh, I'm good, because I don't.
Same.
That's not so for me, like, I understand your side of saying, it needs to rewind a little to give us time to really absorb, because you don't really get to absorb anymore, because 2 seconds later it's on to the next. And so
I've actually started taking a day between books, at least a day.
Yeah.
Because one, those book highs, man,
it's like right?
I really enjoy it. I am like a person, like I'm a real, like when I say I'm a reader, like I'm like, wow, how your mind work like that? Like,
right.
Anyway, I'm sorry. We didn't got off track. Let me get back to the questions, because okay. I'm sorry. So you've been publishing for 6 years now. You have over 120 books written. How do you meet your characters? How do they come to you? How do you interact with them? Like, what is your process as an author?
Okay, so with any creative that is deep into creativity, because some people are, hobby creatives, but any creative, you always toe that line between insanity and reality. We get real close sometimes, but that's where the good stuff comes from. So for me, well, with all my male characters, there is some element of my husband in there. I'm the suburban person, you know, he's he's the thug, so that's where all of that comes from. I'll be upstairs. So how much can you get for 3 ounces and 3 keys? And he's like, this how that gonna work, that kind of thing. So every male character I write, but he's also corporate. He worked in corporate America for years, so he has layers. But so with my males, they have some aspect of him. They start with him somewhere. As far as the females, I don't outline. I'm one of those rare cases. I don't outline. My memory is shit. So I don't know how I've managed this long and not crossed over my books and characters and personalities and stuff. Because once I'm done with a book, I'm done with it. I only remember it when I go back and read it. And, so
Wow.
that's how I am. In my group, they'll be posting screenshots. They'll be like, "Oh, this was funny as hell," and I'll be like, "Oh, that was, but oh shit, I wrote that. That's me." So it's bad. It's really really bad. So how I meet my characters is I don't really meet them. They meet me. They live in
Mm-hmm.
there. They just show up. I can look at a balloon sometimes and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna write about this person." Don't ask me how. That person just shows up and they're like, "I got a story to tell, sis. You ready?" That kind of thing. So that's me. I don't really do anything routinely or anything like that that inspires me to write. The stories just kind of come. Another reason why I just know that what I do is ordained, because I don't have a clue how it works. It just happens. The stories flow, they're there, the people. I managed to create these characters that don't overlap, and so it's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, so even with your shit memory, I'm gonna quote you verbatim. I'm still gonna ask you this question.
Okay.
Would you have be able to tell us your top three favorite male characters and your top three favorite female characters? Like, would you even be able to
Ah,
pinpoint that in your memory,
this
or
is
would that be?
no, this is gonna be so terrible. Females, no. It's
She's
so terrible.
she said
It's
she said,
I
listen,
no.
y'all heifers don't even
Listen, I'm competing with them because I'm in
because
a relationship with their dudes.
I'm about to say because the pieces of my husband that's in each of y'all
Right.
men,
I
that's
can't
the
rock
part
with
that
you
I
like that.
hold. That's the part I hold on. No,
Right.
I completely follow that train of thought because
So
I'm a selfish kind of woman too. So I feel where you coming from. The
there you
pieces
have it.
of my husband that I lent you, baby, I'm gonna
Right.
need that back.
I need that back.
See, my mama always jokes. She'd be like, when you get a husband, you're gonna be crazy. But see, now I can tell her. She'd be like, because when you get a
It's
husband, I already
okay.
know.
No, but if you're not crazy over him, then y'all don't need to be together. Like it
Hello.
just is what it is. So let's see, male characters. Well, so Bronx from If His Heart Is Hood is one of my all-time favorites. I hate saying some of these because some of the books aren't up. I have to get them republished again. So Bronx, and for anybody that he was just that one that he was just slick at the mouth, but he just had such a big heart. So you want to chop him in the throat, and then you like give me a hug, that kind of thing. Um, so him, and then I'd probably say Southern Kings, Getty, that's one of my like all-time favorites. And it was just because I did Brothers, and that was like my first time doing Brothers, and everyone in that series had to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for them not to get lost in the story, and I really try hard to do that, but Yeti he just took over, and it was just one of those things. So probably Yeti from Southern Kings, Bronx from If His Heart Is Hood, and then probably just because I just recently reread this. So Holt. Trevor Holt, he was a football player from Just Say You Will. It just is, he just had one of them personalities where you just didn't like him but you loved him kind of thing. It is what it is when with them. But now as far as the females, and this is really terrible too, I really don't even like half my females that I write.
Wow. Now that wow.
It's terrible. Now they have good traits and bad traits, but I'm always in a
But you
love-hate relationship with these women, and I don't. And they're strong women, and they have their shit together. But it
but you
just
don't like them.
I don't like them half the time. That's terrible.
That is hilarious to me.
Look, I'm being honest though.
Girl, come on now, it's your turn. Come on,
Right,
say
I
what you
know.
got to say. What you got to say, and come on now, and then go ahead. Then I don't even want to hear you half the time. Wow,
Right.
that's hilarious.
That's terrible. I
Oh, I
probably shouldn't
don't
say that, but I'm
no
being real.
no. I am so. You are giving me some refreshing answers. I'm telling you, these answers have been blowing my mind. Okay, so which you not even liking half of these people, well, women, you have written some very heart touching books.
Right.
Which one would you say was the most emotionally grueling to write?
Um, Probably Lost in Love's Abyss. And that was a character, Ra, and he had a very unique situation with him with childhood trauma, and it wasn't physical abuse or anything like that, but it was more of a mental thing that he just kind of had a pervert of an uncle. And so he would have him engage in sexual acts because he didn't want to admit that he was homosexual. But his,
Mm-hmm.
so it was really, when I write books, I do a lot of research, I read a lot, I watch a lot of things that can relate to the characters. I really do a deep dive for my characters because I want to do them justice. I don't want someone to read a book where I've written about a social worker and they're like, this ain't even right. This would never happen. They wouldn't do this, or, that's not how it goes. And I know that every situation is unique and different,
Mm-hmm.
and some things aren't going to always align, but I'm like calling, like, so can you get pregnant if you blah blah blah, and and I'm calling facilities and things like that. I call
Wait,
lawyers.
not calling doctor's office. Excuse me, ma'am. Well, ma'am, are you pregnant? No, but I need,
Oh,
but I
listen,
need to know this.
listen, I had a full-blown conversation. I ended up making a friend. I had an hour-long conversation with a lady because I wrote about a father-son trying to figure out about paternity. And so I was calling, I was like, so what would happen with this? And how can you find out this? And we sat there and she talked to me and she answered all my questions. I ended up calling back a week later because I was like, okay, now I need to know this. So I do research. I really do
What a
research.
blessing it is that people actually have the patience and time to open
Oh,
up to
they
you.
do. But you know what's funny? Everybody wants to talk about what they do in themselves. They don't mind.
That's a
They
good
like
point.
it. They like it. So for to circle back, that book was just really, really hard because I wanted to do justice. And for me, I'm attached to these characters because, like I said, when they come into my head, they're a part of me. Like I'll be writing, and my husband will be sitting there watching. He'll be like, "Oh, you writing something angry, aren't you? Your face all tight." Or sometimes I'll be laughing. He'll be like, "Oh, you write something funny." Yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm attached to these characters. So Lost in Love's Abyss was really, really hard for me because I had to take on his situation and then figure out how it affected him in life and relationships and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And it was just really, really emotional because the situation was so unique, like to the point
Right.
where I would have to step away from it sometimes. And a lot of that book I changed because I was like, oh, this is too deep, and I don't, and people read for an escape. So I was just like, I can't go there with them.
Send me the first copy.
Okay.
I'm a little bit off, so send me the first copy because I like it. Like I said, I like audacity. Go ahead, go all the way. If you're gonna go, I say go. Cause
Yeah. It
so
just
send me
it
the
was
first.
it was just an
As a
emotional roller coaster kind of deal.
I like to go to those places. I'm crazy. I admit it. I like to go to those places,
See, you the
even though
kind of
this.
reader we like because we walk away from it and be like, dang, we should have did that. You be like, yes, you should, girl.
Yep, yep. Listen, if you ever you tech, I will hype the situation. Do it. What they gonna say? What they gonna say? Do it. This
Oh,
your
that's funny.
imagination. How they gonna tell you that didn't happen in your imagination? Is Here's my thing. I don't need it to make sense in real life. I need it to make sense in the book, though. Like, just make it make sense. And you understand what I'm saying?
Right,
like, sometimes stuff doesn't make.
I get you. Yep. I
don't
totally
care if it doesn't make sense in real life, because that's not what we're here for.
Right.
Life don't make sense in real life. We're not here for that. As long as it makes sense in the book and it goes with the book. How you gonna tell me this?
You say roll with it.
How you gonna tell me that's not what happened in my head? How?
Like you say, if that thug went to the moon, he went to the damn moon.
He went to the moon. How you gonna tell me that's not possible? And then you know what's funny? 2 weeks ago, some normal people went to the moon.
There you have it.
If that's what happened, that's what happened in my imagination. You can't tell me that this not what happened. Don't argue with me. Now, if you didn't like it, that's fine. But don't sit here how that's gonna happen. I hate reading those reviews because I made it happen. Because
it's fiction.
Because I sat at my computer and I said, do. Now what?
That's funny. But you know what? I respect that though, because a lot of people read logically, and fiction,
which makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah,
and that's why, and I think that's why I read the most all day. Like some of these books, I wouldn't even tell people I read, quite honestly, because y'all be like, "What was the purpose?" Lisa?
See, now I'm gonna need your list because I need to see what you're
reading. what was the purpose, Lisa? I don't know, and I don't know.
Good though, but you know what? It all circles back to a good book is a good book, and it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to draw you in from page 1 to the end, and when you get to the end, you be like, "Now that was a bunch of bullshit," but it was good though.
It was good though, and that's always been my thing. It's like if it's a good book, like I said, I don't care if you got a drug dealer on the moon. I don't care. Now he came back with moon rocks. I don't care. As long as the book was good and it made sense if it made sense in the storyline of the book.
Right. No, I get you. But what's funny, I don't know who in this group, but I'm telling you, somebody about to go have a conversation and your moon rock book is coming. I promise you it's coming. Somebody gonna write it.
I'm suing y'all. But listen, but I'm serious. Like I love this. And this is why I told any of my author friends, anybody who DM me, you cannot ask me I do not ask me any questions. I like audacious.
Support it.
I like audacious people in real life. So I like people, excuse my French ladies, if your balls is big enough to do it, I need them big enough to stand behind it. I love when people I did it, now what?
And I can respect that because I hate, when you're in that situation where it's like, well, it should have, because like you said, if you're going to do it. Now I'm not the audacious author. My stuff makes sense. But it's still entertaining. But for those that can do it and get away with it, I'm all for it because I'm like,
I'm just saying, commit to what the story is. Absolutely. That's all I'm saying. And sometimes and I'm not saying everybody's going to have these characters who are. Don't get me wrong.
That's because for everybody thing I was talking about. Something for everybody.
So moving to what we're here to discuss, Gray has been one of my favorite male characters this year. And I'm not going to sit here and say it was nothing special about him, but it was nothing. He was an audacious.
He was just.
But he was an everyday audacious kind of person. Yeah. But he was one of my favorite male characters this year. That's why I wanted to check. Because I wanted to, where do you meet these kind of men? Because these men these days don't know how to take control. He said, sis, I'm taking you on a date. I'm taking you on a date.
We're going on a date.
Hello. That's it. That's what I said. I'm a man of my word.
Right.
I said we're going on a date. We're going on a date.
Right. But getting back to that, but the one scene in that book that's funny as hell to me, because you need more of that when he's like, I'm not gonna sleep with you tonight, but then he showed up tomorrow morning. It's like, look, I said last night, but we good now.
That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of man that where he at though? Because he said what he said, and he was a man of his word.
Yeah.
I said that now this is what we need to be discussing. Where do these men come from?
I can lend you my brain, but it ain't gonna give you nothing but some good memories.
But it's like So so you now knowing what I know, let's ask. Did you like Skylar? Was she one of your female characters that you liked?
I did like Skylar. More so because, well, I had a love-hate relationship with her.
Okay.
She was kind of, it took her a while to walk into her own and claim it.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like or that's, at least that's what I wanted to present for her, because
Okay.
I needed her to, with the whole family aspect. And so it appeared that she was that confident woman because she did not take the family route and she did her own thing. However, she always second guessed and questioned herself about it, which is why she latched on to this relationship to secure that job, because she didn't necessarily have the confidence in herself, but she would never really admit to that. So that
Mm-hmm.
was the underlying factor, you know. So she got the job. And I always give my characters that I don't like really shitty names. So that's why his name was kind of shitty. Like I have named people, I've named people really ugly things. When I don't want y'all to like them, I name them really ugly names.
Oh
So
wow, now that's funny. Now going into more of your books, knowing that is like a
yes.
funny.
So if they have a really, just one of those weird, like, so in, oh, I forgot about Redmond and Heart So Reckless. He's probably my all-time favorite male, Redmond from Heart
Okay.
So Reckless. But I named her ex Linus. Who the hell can like a Linus? You're not gonna like him.
Well, see, no, that's not true because when I think of Linus, I think of Linus from the Peanuts with the blanket.
But would you date him?
I
No.
probably would not date somebody named Linus. You're absolutely correct.
There
But
you go.
I'm also from North Philly,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm a
Well,
different.
you're a
I'm
little
a different.
off.
I'm a
You a
different.
little off.
Yeah, I'm a different kind of person. So I don't know.
Yeah, so with Skylar, I had, we she and I had our highs and our lows.
Okay.
When we got towards the middle, she was kind of finding her way. She was accepting Gray. She was starting to come into her home with that, but she didn't necessarily have the confidence with her career, although she pretended like she did.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of, we had a love-hate thing going
But
on.
it worked out. It
It
worked out.
did. It did.
Okay.
It did. So she had some
Um,
really good shining moments there.
I think she handled herself particularly well in a lot of the scenes because yeah, I'm yeah.
It would have been different. It would have, but
It
you
would
know
have.
what? Listen. So this is
But
why I do
I'm
that.
maturing. I'm maturing, and God working on me.
I know, and this is why I do that. So I have some moments where they can catch a fade. And then I have those moments because, like I said, I'm a very, stuff has to kind of make sense. And there, like I said, I read reviews and want to pull up. I know that I can't. And there are people I meet in life, I want to chop them in the throat, but I know that I can't. Now, in my mind, I did it a million times over. But so I have those characters sometimes. It's like, you know what? And it's me. I'm at that point where I got some aggression I need to release. So they lay them hands, their hands up to date. Then I have those characters where they're very mature and they use their words. And so I allowed her to use her words.
And see, I'm not there yet, and I'm working on it. And I
That's
was like,
okay.
wow. And I was like, wow, man, wow. Both
Yeah.
times, I was like, this is if this is the level of maturity that's peak level maturity. I don't know if I'm ever gonna make it because I swear you can't. You wouldn't have been able to do that to me because I would have left.
But
Not
you
left.
know,
Not, I
it's
wouldn't have
not
went
for
to his house.
everybody though.
I wouldn't have went to his house and got my things or nothing. I would have left the wedding. Like I would have just left.
You'd have
Like
been done.
there would not have been a conversation to be had because I know myself and that would have triggered me. So no, sir, we can't not just talk. No, absolutely not. We cannot not just talk. Absolutely not. Mm-mm.
But
Mm-mm.
how boring would the world be if we only had one person, one
You're
type of
right. You're
person?
right. I respect it. I
So
respect it. I respect it. I'm going to leave it alone. I respect it. We're going to talk about how traumatic both of their pasts were with their
right.
families. Gray they both had very high pressure childhoods.
They did.
Gray with always knowing that his potential to be a great football player. A lot of people don't understand the pressure that comes with that for these young men at such a young
Right.
age. And then adding on that at a very young age, becoming heir to a sibling and having
Yep.
to step into that parent role at 17. And I think, I'm a loser. I read a lot, and I've read a lot of biographies of athletes, and
Mm-hmm.
I always I empathize with them because it's a whole part of that we don't see,
There is, yeah.
especially if you're coming from a you know not well off family and you go into this to do one thing and the pressures of becoming this completely other thing, especially if you are an all-star player, which he
Mm-hmm.
was. So you
Yeah.
not just get the pressure of being a great football player, but of being a role model, of being a citizen of your culture, and being, having these cultural responsibilities. And especially over this last year, we've seen a lot of athletes and performers step into this realm of having this expectation to speak on political things that they're not
Right.
necessarily trained on. It's like,
Yeah,
so I always empathize with athletes, even fictional athletes, as you could tell.
and
And then
yeah,
you have Skylar, who has this very much what people would think is
expectation.
a
Mm-hmm.
typical upbringing with two parents in the household, but with this expectation to either be at this level or succeed this level of success.
Mm-hmm.
And what the success was determined by was so huge.
Yeah. So, and that was important to me, to paint their pictures so that you could then see how it conflicted with how they functioned in relationships. And with
Mm-hmm.
Skylar, it was that insecurity and forced confidence. So you come from this family where the expectation is, I have created this foundation for you. So all you have to do is walk into your light. And it almost diminishes who she was as a person, because
Right.
you don't get to be you. You
You have
have
to be this
to,
carbon copy.
right, this robot, because I've created this blueprint and here you go. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then how dare you not do that, because I worked hard, I loved you enough to work hard to create this for you. So you have that dynamic of being diminished to the point where you can't be who you are without disappointing. And then that disappointment feels like lack of love. So I don't love my father because he did all this for me, and I'm saying I don't want that. But then in the
Right.
same light, I didn't ask for it.
Right.
And so that was her struggle in relationships. And then to come from the relationship she had, where he basically used the thing that she um her weakness, that was her weakness, that family
Right.
name and all of that, he used that. And then to but the thing is, she knew, whether she admitted it or not, she knew. But that's that toxic, relationship element, that you
Mm-hmm.
cling to the things that you run from, kind of deal.
True
And
child. Talk
so
about it.
that was her. And then with Gray, my biggest thing, and in talking to a bunch of people and real athletes and stuff like that, to understand that um, how devastating it would be to have to walk away from really the only thing you know. This is something that you didn't even have to think about, um, to process, to be great with. It's just in you. It's a natural ability. And to have such a wonderful career and those highs that come along with it, and then to have to walk away from that. And the reason you have to walk away from that is because you have to choose responsibility and love. So, you know, Skylar walked away from what she had because of the responsibility and love. So for her, it's, I'm running from it. With him, I'm running to it. But they both kind of had to understand their role in, the decisions that they made. And so imagine, and I didn't even get this deep into this, but the fact that he didn't have resentment for his sister because he made the decision that I can't be this person anymore and not affect your image of who you should be and who I am. And so, though it to be able to be mature enough to deal with that, because a lot of people aren't. There's, you get into those relationships where there's resentment, whether it be, siblings or spouse or whatever. But Gray was incredibly mature, in the sense that he did what he had to do, and he put her first. And that was something that a lot of people don't really know how to do. And
he was, I wrote here, this is what I wrote in my words, was that what I wrote down was Gray was everything and definitely all of book bay material. Okay. He was just, I mean, emotionally mature. He was steady. That steadiness in him was like,
yeah,
yo, that's what I always go for. Like, are you a steady person? I
right,
don't like if you loud, be loud all the time. Are you
right.
steady? Are you an even keeled like who are you? Is this who you are? And he showed up every time.
Yeah. And because steady means you know what you're getting. Because if you're not steady, then one day, like you said, you're loud. The next day, you don't talk to me at all. Like you don't know, and you can't balance your emotions because you don't know what you're going to get from that person. So
Right.
that's why
So
that steadiness is, we all
but
want that.
that was the word that I would use for him. Like he was just a really steady person who just was like, if this is what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to do it, and you can
Yep.
trust that. And I was like,
And
you saw it in every relationship he interacted with, from showing up and being the best man in the wedding that he knew he didn't want to be in, but he said he was going to do it, so he committed to it, committing to Jenna and raising her. He said he was going to do it. He promised that to his parents if something happened. He said that's what I really liked about that his character, particularly. Like all of that other stuff was great, his body and all them other things that you had wrote in that book, girl. You had wrote them stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. Now she want to be a little radical writer. All right, right. You had wrote that stuff. I had read that stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm at work. Maybe I should not be reading
I
this
don't know
stuff
what you're
at
talking about. It wasn't none of that in my book.
I was like, maybe I shouldn't read this at work because that's not what I was suspecting. But okay, right. So yeah, so if you could give your your readers in one sentence what you wanted them to gain from Gray and Sky's perspective, what would it be?
Oh, geez. Probably to stay true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
in order to you kind of, so with them, they had to kind of stay true to themselves in order to function in a relationship. So I I think for me, their thing was, a push and pull. And so until Skylar was ready to accept, really who she was, she couldn't accept him, because he
Mm,
like you said, he was steady. He knew who he was. There was no doubt, but he also had 5 years of time to figure out who he was,
right.
and to kind of make sense of things. And she went from place to place. So I'd probably say, it's kind of hard. It's hard to do that in one sentence, but I don't know.
I like to
That's
stay true to who. Stay true to you. I like that one. Stay true
okay. We
to your
gonna go with
core.
what you like.
Because I think in this, I think more so I like that because in the world we live in today, you're so easily influenced, like
Right.
by like you like what you like. Stay true to that. If you know who you are, stay true to that. We live
Right.
in a world where you see so many people becoming successful, doing so many different things. Becoming an author or becoming an influencer or doing this over here. That it's so easy to try to kind of get off track because you might see their way as an easier
Right.
way.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I like that, because in this, especially specifically in this day and age, it's really easily to be pulled away from who you are.
It is. And like you said, especially in the writing industry, because, and I say this all the time, you can write 10 facts, same facts, about a character, personality, a plot, a place. You can write 10 facts, give them to 10 different people. You're going to get 10
10
different
different stories.
stories. because I'm going to write based on my experiences, based on my emotions, based on my education, based on, you know, the people that are in my inner circle. And the next person is going to do the same thing. And no two people, you might have similar experiences, but no two people have the exact same experiences. So I agree. Staying true to yourself, because you cannot have anything solid if you don't. Now, for them, Gray was the anchor and she was the boat. You know, he kept her steady, and but she also kind of guided him into territories that he wasn't used to, because he hadn't really had anything real. What he thought was real slapped him in the face and ended his career. And
Right.
so she was the first person, and even his little side piece, she was good for him in a sense that she gave what he needed, but basically on his terms. Skylar challenged that. Even though it was that push pull and it was one of those things where she didn't really know yet, she challenged him and made him work for it, because it was like, this ain't what I want, you know? And he's like, you don't know what you want. I'm telling you what you want.
You want
And
me. That
right.
period, Pooh. I'm
Right.
telling you want me, and yeah,
So,
that's
you
true.
know, so they both had their roles in the situation, and every relationship won't be like that, because sometimes you're evenly yoked. But for them, he was the anchor and she was the boat. And that,
I like that. I really like that analogy.
yeah, and that was their relationship though.
That
So,
was a
you
good
know,
one.
when
Okay.
she needed to be in control, he, you know, pull up and they go move some more. And when she needed to slow her ass down, he dropped that anchor. So that's just kind of how they were.
I like that. I like that. So, we know, because at the end of the book you said it, that you're
Yeah.
planning to write a book, a second novel focusing on TJ, and I'm sure we will go into his experience, and it will
Mhm.
deal with some mental health
It does.
factors.
Yeah.
Is that your next book?
It is not actually.
Okay.
My next book will be out probably sometime next week. I don't do dates anymore because
Okay.
life happens, but
Right, right.
it's in editing.
And Amazon plays. And Amazon
Right,
plays.
Amazon play way too much. But
Okay.
so I'm halfway through with TJ's story, but in the same respect with Lost in Love's Abyss, I needed to do him justice.
Okay.
And so it wasn't one of those things where I had to take my time with him,
Okay.
because it is dealing with, you know, a mental health thing, because Skylar, and Sailor all had the same pressure. They all
Yep.
reacted to it differently.
Hmm.
Sailor fell in line. Skylar was like, I can't do this.
I have my
TJ
thoughts on
broke.
that. I have my thoughts on that. We can talk about that after this. I have my
Yeah, we'll
thoughts
talk
on
about
that.
that. But
Um,
yeah, so
but
he couldn't handle it, and so he broke in a sense. And so
mhm,
I go back with this story. When you guys get it, you'll start from the beginning of his break and then get the backstory of what got him there. But I didn't want it to be a sad book. So of course you get to see him, you know, in a good space. And but you know,
good.
there's highs and lows when it comes to that. So he's coming. It might. I'm doing so the book that's coming out is another romance book. It's a kind of a little
Okay.
edgy though, but it's
Hold on one second on that
okay.
one, because that's my fact that we're gonna talk about that. We want some facts on that one, but I want to
Okay.
know first before we talk about that. Will Sailor or okay, a Sailor book? Will Sailor and Jenna get a book? I'm more interested in Jenna's book.
Okay, so and it's crazy to me that everybody loves Sailor, but I think that the thing with her is that she was entertaining. And this is gonna sound absolutely horrible. She doesn't have any depth yet.
Hmm.
So when I do her story, I have to start with who she is and give her some depth. And I'm not ready to counsel her yet. So
Okay.
but Jenna is gonna, yeah, because she's been speaking to me a little bit, and I
I want to see
there's
how
some,
she navigates without this
yeah.
guidance. And I want her. Okay, so this is bad. I'm not trying to influence you, but this is just me as a reader. I want to see Jenna mess up. I want to see. I
You
want to.
will. You will, because I'm not gonna. You'll get her probably her last 2 years of college, because I want
Okay.
her to be mature enough, but still mess up.
Yeah,
Um,
like I want to see her. What is life like without this
Without,
pressure, without,
yes,
because she's under a lot of pressure as well. And I don't think she is, it appears to be a charmed life. But like Skylar pointed out to her when she came home, you are not your average teenager. You have
that's it.
access to not your
You
average
got to
teenager
navigate
things.
different.
How
Yeah.
do you got to learn how to move different, but without being baby? And I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in seeing young women find their own voice without having so many people, so many big influential people, because you're
That's
not
it.
just dealing with, you know, your average person here. You're dealing with
She
somebody
got a
that's
whole different world. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
has access to millions, who has access to get you home at the drop of a dime, who you can go to celebrity weddings and you hang around. So but you're not a celebrity, but you're
Yep.
not a millionaire. So what does that look like for you?
Yep. And that my goal with her is, because we saw her in a bubble. We saw her under this layer of protection, and the we got a peek at what happens when she's not under that layer of protection,
That
when she
naivety, and it's like,
right.
oh, she
So she's got a whole, like, but I wanted to let her experience some things first. So you'll get those last 2 years where she's starting to kind of
oh
figure it out a little
yeah.
bit, but she doesn't have it figured out because she's got to gain some independence first. Because the first time she had an issue, she came home crying. She can't do that. She's gotta figure it out some. And so that's the Jenna that I want everybody to meet and see, because you need to see some growth and
Yeah,
how
because
she
at the end of the
navigates.
book, somebody was calling her Jenny, and I was like, "No, sis, you're supposed to correct them every time. That's not my
Yep.
name. That's not my
Yep.
name. That's not my name." So I was like, "Oh, that she." So out of all of the siblings, she actually piqued my character. She piqued my interest the most, because
Yeah.
I love seeing young women develop.
Yeah.
I love seeing them figure it out. Okay, so now the next question is: if you're not doing TJ story next, if not, what can we expect? So just give us a quick wrap around on this edgy romance that's coming out next week. Just a few quick facts.
So it's basketball player and a publicist. He has a career-ending injury, and there again, what the fuck do I do with my life? This is all I know. But he
Hmm.
also has some family stuff going on, to where basketball ended up being his life, and so he's really like in a weird space. He doesn't know what to do. So of course, what do? You act out because you can. So but then he's got this woman that just comes in there and is like, look, I'm supposed to fix you so that my career can take off, so get your shit together, like that kind of thing. So you'll have them, and then they just have this, it's that connection that you can't really explain. You don't know enough
Hmm.
about it to explain it, because you haven't had it before, and they just click. But there's that love hate thing kind of deal. But
Hmm.
so that's next. And then after that, I just started. I'm taking it to the hood for a little bit. I hadn't been there in a while, so those will be my next two things.
I love the hood. Like, I've made that abundantly clear. I love the hood. Well, that's all for my questions. Thank you so much for answering. We
And
do have
thank
one
you for
question
having
in the
me.
chat. We do have one question in the chat. I did not forget, and I just want to run this question by you. Hold on. Okay, let me show it. Are you independently published?
Yes.
And if so, what are the business aspects of the independence that you enjoy, and what are the hardest parts? That's an excellent question.
So I absolutely love being independently published, just because of the freedom. For so long, I was guided towards writing one way and doing certain things one way, and it was, this is the blueprint, this is the format. So with independent publishing, if I want to write a novella, I write a novella. If I want to write erotica, I write erotica. If I want to drop a standalone about historical fiction, that's what the hell I'm gonna do. So that's the best part of independent publishing. You are not boxed in, and you have the freedom to navigate however you see fit. The hardest parts are, it's just you. So if you don't have a village or a community of people who you can rely on, then you're doing the business side of it. You're the one that has to pay the bills. You got to order the covers. You got to, send off for editing. And here's the thing, for anybody that reads my books, I am a brilliant mind, best creator in the world. I can write a dope ass book, but I cannot edit it. And when I read through my books, what I meant to say is what I see, no matter how off it is. So that's another thing with independent publishing. It's all on me. So I have to find, the editors, and I've gone through a shitload of them. Some of the top editors have done the worst jobs at editing books, and some of the small independent ones who I had counted out did an amazing job. So it's just, the business aspect, when you are independent, it's all on you. And that takes away from the creativity because you are the machine, you're the business, and you're also the creative. So when you're having to, do the business side of it, guess what you're not doing? You're not writing. So those are the things, and it's not for everybody. And some people need like we were talking about earlier, some people need to be trained and they need the growth and they need the guidance and they need to focus on the writing. So for those people, get a publisher, but get a publisher that is going to not just put books out and publish you. They're going to do the work to make sure at some point you can stand on your own independently. So independent is not for everybody. And then there's some people who just don't want to be independent. It's just like, I don't want to do any of that. Here's my book, publish it for me. So that's what I would say. The business side of it is the part that I least like because it's tedious and it's time consuming and it takes away from the creative side. But the independence of being able to freely create and do what I want, whenever I want, however I want it, that's the part I absolutely love and wouldn't take that back.
Oh, well, thank you for answering that question for us.
No
Let me
worries.
just double check and make sure it's there are a lot more good freelance editors out here now. So that's a suggestion from Lisa. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you,
And I think
Lisa.
that is it for the questions. Just to wrap this up, if they are not already following you, let our sister girls and viewers know where they can find your books, where they can find you, Casey Mills, on these internet streets.
I am author Casey Mills on all social media outlets, and that's Facebook group, and Instagram. My website is the author Casey Mills, but that's pretty much it. I'm not a huge social media person, just because, like I said, I am a recluse. I'm horrible at communicating with people. So if you reach out to me or send a DM, or it might take me a week to get back to you, but I promise I will always get back to you. It just is going to be a little delayed. Just be patient with me.
Well, that's all we have for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us and keeping the chat room lit. And we hope you enjoyed Implied Consent. And we are looking forward to author Casey Mills' next drop. And I will make sure that we get those in the book club room as soon as they drop, because we always like to drop the links first. So
Thank you.
good night, ladies. Have
Good
a
night,
great Sunday
ladies.
evening.